Zach.
Hey.
Hey, it says here in the notes, sleight of hand trick in the watchmaker argument or wing argument, putting watch man-made into the environment. Yes, I didn't get to that. It's actually, Dennis Loubet has a great treatment of that where, and I didn't actually get to it today, I wanted to, which is this idea that if everything's designed, then you're walking around in a universe of watches on a beach of watches and you're picking up one watch and saying, look how clearly designed this is.
Yeah, I've heard that treatment of it too, and I find that to be also very convincing to someone.
Yep.
But so I was having an argument with someone, and they brought up the watchmaker argument, and one of the things that I pointed out to them is this. I actually expressed this whole magic trick that is doing that. When you're putting the brain in the idea of contrast, and then you're switching it up and saying, oh, it's complexity and a sense of purpose that you recognize, then you're literally lying to people, whether or not you realize it. And what I did, one of the ways that I combated this was I was like, if everything is designed, then the argument should work for everything. So I'd say you're walking down the beach and you come across a hammer and you recognize that it's designed. You're walking down the beach and you find a stone tied to a stick and you recognize that it was designed. But in this case, you're not looking at, it's not complex. The parts of this stone hammer are found in nature, but the fact that it was created with a purpose is something that you have evidence for that thinking beings would do.
Yep.
And then
that's why I went to poop.
Yeah. And then you bring up the fact that, okay, if everything is designed, let's try this out with something that we know is not human designed. So you're walking down the beach and you find a sand dollar. Do you immediately recognize that as designed? No. You keep walking because there are thousands of sand dollars on the beach. You're walking in the forest and you come across a squirrel.
Yeah, but you notice how Brandon dodged that kind of thing, right? You remember? Yeah. I mean, he would immediately go into, well, yes, it is, but then and what I never get from guys like him is the description of what they believe a non-designed universe would look like. I always say, even if your belief, your conviction is that everything that we will encounter in our universe is the product of some sort of purposeful design by a thinking being, simply to be able to say that as an intelligible statement, you've still got to be able to conceive of, because this is scientific falsifiability, right? You've at least got to be able to conceive of that non-designed universe. So what would that look like? I never get an answer. They always sort of, woo, dodgeball here. Whoa, look at this. I can do this. Yeah. And they never just come down and lay it all out to where you go, I see. And that's because of course they can't. Right. Because what if they were to say something like, well, planets would be shaped like, bananas, and they would, every planet would have a different orbit. One would be a figure 8, and everything would just be crazy and weird. And then you could respond to that by saying, well, how do you know that that's not a universe designed by a god who is insane, or just has a really weird sense of humor?
Yeah, when you're doing the airplane and birds thing,
yeah,
you're talking about efficiency and how good something is at it. Clearly, airplanes are better at flying under many standards than birds are going to be. And so if you then ask, well, then, why is it that man can design something that's better than what God did? Then the answer that you get is what we heard earlier, which is no, it was designed to fly like this. So the bird that's designed to fly like an eagle is different from the bird that's designed to fly like a sparrow or a hummingbird.
And this guy called.
When you guys were talking about that, I was like, talk about chickens. Talk about people.
I'll tell you what we did. This guy called last time I was on the show. This guy called, and I went after him on it during the Aftershow, like we're doing now. And I pointed out to him that, because his whole thing was, well, a square wing wouldn't be logical, and a square wing wouldn't work. And I would say, if what you are attempting to propose to me is a supernatural God who can make things by an act of will, this God would be able to make a square wing that flew. Right? I mean, this is the God who uttered a sentence and a universe appeared, right? If you've got that kind of we're talking about a magician here, someone who we're talking about a celestial Gandalf, Okay,
Exactly.
so you cannot argue from design. You cannot say here is a logical progression of things that we see in nature, and this argues for design. When when the conclusion you're attempting to reach is a God who can just say shit and things come into existence. If the Christian God wanted a bird with one square wing and a trapezoidal wing, and 6 heads all facing different directions to be able to fly, he could make that being. He can make
Yeah.
He can make
change the laws of physics so that is the optimal course.
He could
for
do
flying.
that,
Exactly,
and that's why I always say it's like it's the same argument with like the Goldilocks zone, right? Well, if the Earth were only this much closer to the sun or further away, so I'm like, it wouldn't matter. We're talking about God. If you've got
Right,
a
you
God,
could put us
why don't we
on the
have
sun
intelligent
and
life on every
we could
single
be-
planet in this solar system? Why don't we have space whales
then we
floating
wouldn't
around
be
in vacuum? Yeah. I mean, you're using all these natural limits, things that we understand about how nature works and natural law, to argue for your limitless God.
But they're
It's a
tearing down.
completely ridiculous position, and and I wish I'd gotten into that with him today, but we didn't.
But I talked more.
That's
Yeah.
And
that just happens.
the-
I
the
just sit
last-
back and let you do it. Yeah. So.
Anyway, we're
Yeah,
out
I'm
of
done.
time. They're tearing down the
chasing us-
studio.
They're kicking us out of here.
We'll see you later.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks for taking my call. You guys are doing a great job.
Sure. Thanks.